Is Conan's creator, Robert E. Howard, the grandfather of the shared universe, outshining all of his famous peers and contemporaries of his time? Today, we'll uncover the truth. Conan the Barbarian may be the most famous of Howard's creations, but he's far from the only one. Howard makes it very clear in his stories that most, if not all of his characters exist in a shared universe, a secondary world that spans tens of thousands of years and chronicles the adventures of characters such as Conan, Kull and Brule, Bran Mak Morn, Solomon Kane, Dark Agnes, Borak, Conrad and Kirowan, James Allison, just to name a few. Today, we're going to cover all of those characters, and we're also going to talk about how those characters connect to one another. Please take a moment, like and subscribe. Buckle up, barbarians, because we're going on a deep dive into the Howardverse. Let's start out with Kull the Conqueror in the Arthurian Age. Kull starts his life out as a barbarian of Atlantis, a land of harsh environments and fierce tribes that shape him into a formidable warrior and thinker. Over the course of many years, Kull goes from an exile of Atlantis to a slave, a pirate, gladiator, and ultimately the king of Volusia. Alright, so how does Kull connect to the Howardverse? As outlined in Howard's Hyborian Age essay, Conan's Cimmerians are descendants of Kull's Atlanteans. However, the best piece of evidence that Kull belongs to a shared universe is an epic crossover with another iconic Howard character. Who is that character? You'll find out soon enough. In the Arthurian Age, Brule is the fiercest warrior of the Pictish Islands and a trusted companion of Kull. Given the long-standing feud between Kull's Atlantean kin and Brule's people, the Picts, their friendship holds symbolic weight. Brule's upbringing in the Pictish wilderness endows him with the ability to navigate terrain with stealth and expertise, and his skill with sword and spear are legendary. Brule connects to the Howardverse for all the same reasons as Kull, but most importantly, Brule the Spear Slayer is the ancestor of an iconic Robert E. Howard character whose adventures take place thousands of years after the collapse of the Arthurian and Hyborian ages. We're gonna get to it, hang tight. The most famous of Howard's creations, Conan the Barbarian. Now, if you guys haven't already seen our video, The Real Conan the Barbarian, check it out, link in the description. Conan is the barbarian who becomes king by his own hand, and the most famous of Robert E. Howard's creations. He's a man of many roles: thief, mercenary, pirate, soldier, and king, to name but a few. Conan follows the barbaric code of his people, the Cimmerians, and doesn't adhere to the laws of civilization. How does Conan connect to the Howardverse? Let's start with the obvious. Robert E. Howard's Hyborian Age essay establishes that clear link between Kull's Arthurian Age and Conan's Hyborian Age. But there's more. In the first Conan story, Thothamon, the sorcerer villain in The Phoenix and the Sword, once possessed a magic ring of power, and not the Middle-earth kind, that later resurfaces in two other Howard stories. It is so cool, keep watching. Bran Mak Morn is the most important of Howard's creations when it comes to connecting his expanded universe. We all know who the Picts are, right? Brule the Spear Slayer and the Picts of the Arthurian Age, and then of course the Picts of Conan's Hyborian Age. Bran Mak Morn is the last king of the Picts, who are now in the Roman era, an ancient race whose glory has faded. What is the dark destiny that haunts Bran Mak Morn? In Bran's time, the Picts have devolved, losing much of their ancient heritage and power. As the last king of the oldest race, Bran is an alien amongst his own people, aware that his efforts to revive their former glory may ultimately be in vain. Okay, so how does Bran Mak Morn connect to the Howardverse? In the story Kings of the Night, Bran, desperate to defeat Roman invaders, uses ancient magic to summon Kull of Atlantis from the Arthurian Age to fight alongside him. Now Kull, believing this strange experience to be a dream, agrees to join Bran in battle. As the fight rages on, Kull vanishes in a mystical vision of his time, leaving no trace behind. Pretty cool, right? Bran Mak Morn is of royal lineage, dating back to Brule the Spear Slayer of the Arthurian Age. That's right, he is a direct descendant of Brule. And potentially, there just might be another character who is secretly and unexpectedly a descendant of Bran Mak Morn. Stick around and find out. After the Roman era of Bran Mak Morn is the Renaissance era with Dark Agnes. Agnes de Chastillon, aka Dark Agnes, is a red-haired adventurer in early 16th century France. Agnes's story begins with her as a victim of her father's cruelty and on the brink of being forced into an arranged marriage. In a bold act of defiance, Agnes kills her would-be husband and flees, setting herself on a path of freedom and adventure. Agnes's berserker fury, matched with her skills with blade and pistol, make her a deadly force to reckon with. If outnumbered or under great stress, she can unleash a blinding fury that augments her strength and fighting prowess. This power of rage even surpasses the influence of magic. Robert E. Howard's themes are deeply embedded in the very essence of Agnes. Like Conan and many of Howard's other protagonists, she's an outsider, constantly navigating the boundary between barbarism and civilization. Now, Dark Agnes is a part of Heroic Signature's Battle of the Black Stone, and I, for one, hope to see a whole lot more of Agnes in the future. Solomon Kane. Solomon Kane is a Puritan monster slayer in the late 16th century who travels between Europe and Africa and slays evil wherever it may be found. Now, Solomon Kane might seem a little gloomy, emo, hot topic-y, but don't be fooled. When roused to anger, Kane's powerful voice and untamed fury can shake the very foundations of Earth. Now, is Solomon Kane a man of God or clinically insane? Probably both. Basically, he's God's hitman. Let's talk about those luscious accessories. Is Solomon Kane's staff older than the Earth itself? This beyond ancient tool was gifted to Kane by an African shaman, and its history spans millions of years prior to mankind's inception. It's even rumored to have been the staff that Moses used to part the Red Sea. It possesses capabilities beyond human comprehension, including communication over distances and detecting supernatural entities. It's kind of like a cell phone that can part a Red Sea. How does Solomon Kane connect to the Howardverse? In the Solomon Kane story, The Moon of Skulls, Solomon Kane encounters Atlantean ruins and the last Atlantean. Now, this link ties Kane to the Thurian age of Kull and Brule. What is the alien threat that connects Conan the Barbarian to Solomon Kane? Bet you didn't see that one coming. In the Conan adventure, Queen of the Black Coast, Conan encounters monstrous, winged humanoid ape-like creatures that have devolved from a previously higher state of being. Now, Solomon Kane battles similar entities in the 1932 story Wings in the Night. They also appear in the James Allison story The Garden of Fear. Furthermore, Howard's posthumously published space adventure Almeric, which takes place on another planet, features similar winged creatures known as Yagas. Could these creatures be of this same alien species? While a direct connection is not explicitly established, they were likely intended to be of the same origin, a doomed alien race bound to the same cycle of evolution and de-evolution that runs throughout all of Howard's stories. What is the ancient artifact of unspeakable power that connects Solomon Kane to Conan? In the posthumously published The Right Hand of Doom, Solomon Kane encounters a serpent coil ring. Could this be the same ring of Thothomon featured in Conan's The Phoenix on the Sword? Now, this is not the last we'll see of this serpent coil ring, as it appears one more time in Howard's works, plaguing other famous characters in the 1930s. Stay tuned. By the way, guys, I'm recording from home today, so if you hear any suspicious whoops, this is the culprit. I love this creature, but he would not last 10 seconds in the Hyborian age. Now is an excellent time to hit that subscribe button. Save this dog from the terrors of the Hyborian age. That leads us to contemporary times. Borak. Francis Xavier Gordon is a Texas gunslinger who travels the Middle East using his keen mind and quick pistol to navigate the dangerous world of adventure. Now, Francis Xavier Gordon is known for his unmatched speed in combat, which earns him the nickname El Borak, which in Arabic translates to the Swift. No relation to Taylor Swift. Like many of Howard's characters, El Borak is prone to berserker rage. Always a staunch supporter of the underdog, he's just as likely to avenge the murder of his Afghan friends as he is to stop Westerners from plundering that which does not belong to them. How does El Borak tie to the Howard-verse? Now, Howard wrote a lot of El Borak stories in his teenage years. In one of these early stories, El Borak discovers the lost city of Velus, perhaps an early reference to the city of Volusia of the Thurian Age. In these ancient ruins, El Borak discovers the temple to a snake god, Set, as well as an elephant god, perhaps Yad-Kosha from Tower of the Elephant, and voila, a direct connection between El Borak and the Hyborian Age of Conan. Is El Borak secretly related to another famous Howard character? Gordon describes himself as being of Highland Scot and Black Irish ancestry, ethnic groups generally considered to be descendants of the Picts. And as Howard once noted in a letter, he bore a striking resemblance to Pictish hero Bran Mak Morn. So, El Borak might be a descendant of Bran Mak Morn and Brule the Spear Slayer. I am willing to go out on a limb here and say that El Borak definitely was intended to connect to Robert E. Howard's overarching Howard-verse. Kirowan and Conrad. If you don't know much about them, you're about to become a fan. Professor John Kirowan and his investigative partner John Conrad, basically the Watson to Kirowan's Holmes, are researchers of the occult. Together, they traverse the world battling the eldritch horrors of darkness. You could consider the Adventures of Conrad and Kirowan to be a 1930s precursor to the X-Files. Now, Kirowan is the reluctant hero. He's like that retired gunslinger who knows how to use a pistol but doesn't want to pick it up until he absolutely has to. The pistol in this case being the dark forces of the occult. Now on the other end of the spectrum, Conrad is a little more eager for action. If you go back to the X-Files comparison, Kirowan's more of a Scully and Conrad is a Mulder. How do Kirowan and Conrad connect to the Howard-verse? The Serpent Coil Ring, first seen in the Hyborian Age and the Conan story, the Phoenix on the Sword, and then later in the Solomon Kane story, the Right-Handed Doom, becomes the subject of its own Kirowan and Conrad story, The Haunter of the Ring in the 1930s. According to Kirowan, this ancient ring has been circulating around evil cults of sorcerers since the days of Stygia. Now it makes you wonder, where's that Serpent Coil Ring gonna pop up next? Now it's time to talk about one of Robert E. Howard's most mysterious characters, James Allison, a writer living in rural Texas in the 1930s. Sound familiar? Now, James Allison is haunted by vivid dreams of night terrors about his countless past lives that echo throughout time, where he finds adventure and a greater sense of purpose. He tries to record these memories in his written works and journals. Is James Allison and Robert E. Howard the same person? Robert E. Howard infused Allison with his own feelings and dissatisfactions with life. Like Allison, Howard longed for a bygone era filled with adventure and valor. So at least in spirit, yes, James Allison is Robert E. Howard. How does James Allison connect to Conan the Barbarian? In James Allison's past lives, he is usually depicted as a warrior in eras lost to time. One such story, Valley of the Worm, stands out as a quintessential Howard creation. In it, Allison, as the warrior Njord, fights alongside an unexpected Pictish ally against a colossal serpent and other horrors within the ruins of a deserted Hyborian metropolis. Oh, and by the way, that giant serpent is Satha, the same snake that Conan fought in the story The Scarlet Citadel, thus connecting James Allison to the Hyborian Age and by proxy Conan the Barbarian. So without question, James Allison's connection to the Hyborian Age and Robert E. Howard himself makes him for one of the most compelling and unique characters the Howardverse has to offer. There are so many more incredible characters within Howard's vast body of work. So knowing what we know now, let's circle back and answer those questions. Is Robert E. Howard the grandfather of the modern-day shared universe? First, we gotta give credit where credit is due. In 1874, Jules Verne published The Mysterious Island, which was a crossover sequel to his famous 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and In Search of the Castaways. Frank Baum introduced The Land of Oz in 1900, but his world lacked the depth and intricate history of Howard's universe. In contrast, while Tolkien began envisioning Middle-earth in 1914, it wasn't until 1937 that The Hobbit was published. In 1929, Edgar Rice Burroughs published Tarzan at the Earth's Core, a crossover which beat Robert E. Howard's Kings of the Night by mere months. Clark Ashton Smith and H.P. Lovecraft hinted at interconnected worlds through subtle references to various names and places within their stories. Now, Howard, Lovecraft, and Ashton Smith even connected their own worlds to one another. More on that in another video. In the 1920s and 30s, Howard took the concept of a shared universe to unprecedented levels. And that's not to diminish the work of these other legendary authors. They all made significant strides in popularizing the concept of shared universes. However, it's crucial to highlight that despite his considerable contributions, Robert E. Howard's achievements in this arena often go underappreciated. Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan, Solomon Kane, Dark Agnes, Borak, James Allison, Bran Mak Morn, Conrad and Kirowan, and so much more, is the grandfather of the modern-day shared universe. Aside from Conan, who is your favorite Robert E. Howard character? Sailor Steve Costigan and Mike the Bulldog, anyone? For more crucial knowledge on Conan and the Hyborian Age, the Howardverse, check out all of our other videos, like and subscribe. Come back for more next time.